So let's talk about Dodger baseball right now. That's Brooke's favorite part of this show. Danny Hudson, my boy. He's out for the season. He blows out his knee. It sucks a load. That's at least 4 scoops of ass to see Danny go down like that. Done for the year. Says he wants to pitch in 2023. I don't care really because that doesn't help right now. And before he went down with the injury, this bullpen already needed help. Bullpen, suddenly a pretty big concern. Some of them, people are still getting the job done. Yeah. Your boy Bickford, you called it. The regression is here. It's now, and it's heavy. Vesia, I'm still kind of teetering on where he's exactly fitting in.
I think they are too.
Well, I mean, we know where he's fitting in. He's fitting in the 7th and whatever, but it's tough times. And then, Kimbrel's a box of chocolates. You don't really know what you're going to get except for inconsistency.
Fastball. You're going to get a fastball. That only gets you so far in life.
Fastball on a curve that isn't hit for a strike. And Brewstar had a real up and down weekend, capped by his first career save. But
I like how he pumped in that 103 mile an hour fastball. I was like, oh yeah, Daddy's fired up today.
He was yoked, as the kids say. But man, they with Hudson out, Trinan's still out, Ferguson's down. You got some problems there in that back end of the bullpen and the middle end of the bullpen and everywhere in the bullpen. How you feeling about where we're at, and what do you think happens in the next month and a half until that trade deadline?
Let me say something positive about David Price, because I haven't done that in
DP, my boy,
since he was traded to the Dodgers. I think is the last time I said something positive. How about that dude hitting the upper 90s? Where the hell did that come from?
That one I did not see.
He went over 95 miles an hour on his fastball. It was nuts. He was pumping him out.
Was that Sunday?
Saturday.
I don't trust the Fox gun.
Me neither. Not necessarily.
Fox isn't really good at being truthful.
That dude hasn't hit that high on his fastball in 34 years, I think is the last time he did that. So not necessarily that velocity is everything, but it's often an indication of health overall. So if he's very healthy, which he should be because they have him pitch once every 3 months, that might be a good weapon out of the bullpen that we were very surprised by, because we have long been on the thought process of why the hell is he still on this team?
Yeah.
When is he going to be traded? When is he going to be starting for a different team? Because it seems like that's what he wants to do. So I'll say that about him. Very, very good. I like what I've seen. I will also say the Dodgers are in a very, very tough place right now because it's July.
Yeah.
Trade deadline isn't coming, right? We need
Almost
help.
July.
We need help in July.
Mm-hmm.
We do need help in July. That's true. There's not going to be anybody that's going to be coming back in July. There's not going to be a lot of help coming your way in July. But if we can make it over that hump, get into August, you got a couple names that are going to be available to you all of a sudden. You're going to have a guy like Victor Gonzalez who's probably going to be available to you. You're supposed to have a Danny Duffy who's going to be available to you. Should have a Tommy Kahnle, who is supposed to be a big piece in this bullpen, available to you once again. So the question then becomes, how the hell do you get through this month alive? Yeah. And there's a couple options that are out there. People have talked about the trade for starting pitchers. Obviously, that's still something that needs to be addressed, still something that needs to be figured out. I don't think that they go that route. I do not think that they end up landing a big starting pitcher. I think that they fill the gaps with what they have right now and then use some of those arms that are in the minor league system, those starters, as bullpen pieces to get us through over that hump. Because number one, provides length out of the bullpen, and we're going to need it. And I think you're going to see a lot of 3-inning reliefs over the next month. I think you're going to also see a guy like Ryan Pepio start to piggyback Tony Gonsolin starts, because they are going as good as Tony has been. And I'm not saying his regression this season is coming. I'm not saying anything like that. What I am saying is he's never pitched this many innings, and it's June.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. You are... I mean, you're not living on borrowed time, but you are really mortgaging October the longer you keep pitching, Tony. And we saw, to his credit, the Catman has been nails. Claws? He's been claws this season, all season long. Best Dodger pitcher by far in the rotation, consistently staying in there, going every 5th day. Being the stopper, like we talked about, he ends losing streaks, whether he gets the win or not. 9-0 should be 10-0 because that's what I want, and wins are sexy. But
would have been a Cy Young Award winner if you got those 10 wins.
Yeah,
right?
There it is. There
goes my bet.
First person ever in the history of the universe to have 10 wins or something like that. But you can't keep running him out there. You saw him. I was getting to his credit. He told Dave, "Piss off. I want to stay in there." He said, "Piss off, Ghost." I want to keep on doing my pitching, and Dave said no. And I think that was a little bit with that eye towards the pitch count, towards the inning count, towards the what do they call them? The stress innings.
Stress innings.
Yeah. So
you have a guy like Ryan Pepio, you have an Andre Jackson, you have a Michael Grove, you have these arms that are available to you. You also kind of forget we have a Garrett Clevenger and a Justin Brule that are also in the minor leagues right now that are probably going to be back up this week, I would imagine.
Yeah, they really
you have the
they
pieces.
aren't closer material.
They're not. You have the pieces to make this work and to make it happen without losing any money, any prospect capital, and any current player on the roster if you don't want to get rid of any of those guys. You have the pieces to make that happen. It's just a matter of what they want to do at this point, because they could stand pat. They could stand pat and wait for Duffy and wait for Dustin May and wait for Tommy Kahnle and wait for Victor Gonzalez and wait for Caleb Ferguson, who should be back soon rather than later. But you have all of these names that are going to be back. Also, Blake Trinan, who will supposedly be back at some point in his life. Who knows when that's going to be? They said after the All-Star break. We'll see what actually happens there. But you have so many pieces ready to go. Add in the fact that Reyes Moronta, my God,
burrito.
That man is throwing out of his mind right now. I mean, he's throwing some nasty stuff out there. I guess when you got that low of a center of gravity, you can kind of make things happen and shape your pitches. He's doing a great job.
You've seen it here in office baseball.
I definitely have seen it here in office baseball. So that being said, of the pieces that we have, see, it's a little hodgepodge, whatever it's called. It's a little thrown together.
I agree with what you're saying here. You gotta weather that storm of the next month, because in August you do have you're gonna start to have that hopefully good problem to have. You really hope the Danny Duffy thing works out a year later, or a year later than it was supposed to.
Right.
At some point in time, you are gonna have Blake Trinan, who's gonna plug right back into that 7th, 8th inning role. The fireman, he's gonna probably be getting the biggest outs in any particular game, regardless, I was supposed to say irregardless of the inning. But the help is needed. Caleb Ferguson threw a bullpen or live pitching, live BP Sunday in Atlanta. Trinan is back in L.A. And, him actually and Ferguson are on their way back to L.A. right now. They're going to be doing some work at Dodger Stadium. But, there's a serious and significant need for relief help. And Alondra commented earlier, and I wanted to keep this one up there. If they trade for pitching, what will they give up? So I was thinking about this over the weekend because, this is such an important show that we think about this 24/9. All right. We'll say Andrew and the Dodgers, the front office, all that, they've had some interesting results when it comes to bullpen, relief acquisitions.
Okay.
When they are under the radar moves, Vesia, Clevenger, like they work out, Bickford, they work out there in the moment. But they've been snake bit a couple of times in a way, or they've been bit in the ass a couple times in a way with when they trade for, quote, names in a way. Not to say Josh Fields was a big name, but you know what? He had some... he had a little bit behind his resume. He had got it done at the big league level for a couple of years. And who did they trade away? A relative unknown who's now one of the best sluggers in the American League, and Yordan Alvarez.
That's the thing. When you go bullpens like that, there's just no relievers.
It's such a volatile, in so many ways. Trading for relief is such a volatile thing. Now we see O'Neal Cruz up with the Pirates, and that was what, Tony Watson?
Half a season of Tony
Watson. Half a season of Tony Watson. He had a season and a half of Josh Fields or whatever, 2-ish seasons, and he eventually got released or whatever. I do not think the trade market for bullpen help is the way this team goes.
You also have to look at the minor league system beyond the 40-man roster right now, because beyond the 40-man roster, there are a bunch of dudes that are performing outstanding in a league that is meant to amplify offensive statistics. So I'll just say that. You look at guys like Marshall Kasowski, I think is a dude who Tim is very high on. Super high on that guy.
Tim, friend of the show.
Probably knows him very well too, because of course he does. Also, Carson Fulmer is pitching out of his GD mind right now. The dude is one of those dudes who was like, hey, you're up with us. Never mind, you're not with us anymore. He's
top prospect,
leading the team in saves. I think he's pitching really well. He's got an ERA below 2. I mean, for a league where it's designed to like amplify offensive statistics, that's pretty freaking good. And obviously, you never know how things are going to translate. But Carson Fulmer is one of those guys that has been there, has had big league opportunities, was a top pick, has the resume behind him. Could be a guy that's in on this team. So, I mean, if you're looking at the options, there are a lot of options. It's just a matter of being a Dodgers fan and always wanting that big name. And I understand that. But I think you're at a point now where you got to kind of take what you have and work with it and make it work for a month. And if you can get by for the next month and a half, which I think the Dodgers can more than do that and remain in first place, you got a clean runway into the postseason. I mean, you're talking about fresh arms. You're talking about fresh starting pitchers. You're talking about fresh bullpen guys. You're in a really good spot. There are bigger worries on this team, I think, than that. Believe it or not. Like, for instance, the bench, which we will talk about, because the bench is, you talk about 2 scoops of ass.
Actually, I want to talk about the bench on the round table, so tune into the round table this week. We're filming that on Wednesday afternoon. There are 2 big things that'll help this bullpen and help this bullpen survive the next month and a half until dudes start getting healthy. One is Craig Kimbrell needs to learn how to effing do his job again.
Jeez.
And 2, it's Bobby Miller season. Just let it happen. It's time for Bobby Miller to get his feet wet. You add him to the 40-man roster. I don't care who you need to DFA, Eddie Alvarez. Bring up Bobby Miller. See what happens in the bullpen. The guy is going to go up here and throw like 112. Mm-hmm. He's got some nasty off speed, and you don't necessarily need to always know where the ball is going as a rookie reliever.
Might also be very good experience for him to get that with get in with Kershaw, get in with, Buehler's obviously injured, but get in with those veteran guys, get in with Mark Pryor sooner rather than later, and I think that's going to have a really good effect on his career. Hasn't been the best at Tulsa, but
no. But he comes up now, gets his feet wet, gets that cup of coffee. He learns from the coaching staff what he needs to work on, goes back down to 2A, 3A, works on it, comes back up, lock it in for Justice. He's going to be one of your top relievers come postseason.
It'll be the same kind of like career arc, at least at the beginning, for Walker Buehler. Mm-hmm. He had that taste in the big leagues, before he actually got the starting gig and became who he is. And obviously this season's a little different. We don't have to talk about that, but it's very similar. Like, hey, maybe you're not quite ready to go. Maybe you're not big. Your stuff's not big league sharp. But come up with us, throw a little bit. We'll talk. Go back down. Work on it. Come back. Maybe that's what you need for him.
We got a comment. Where was it? Where did you go? I saw Emerson saying Dodgers do not want to start the clock on Bobby Miller. I usually understand that. Usually agree with that. However, he's not the youngest dude. He was a college guy when they drafted him. He's 23, just turned 23 in April. He's not a 19-year-old. It's not like when they called up Julio and then, that was a different era. That was a different time. They plugged him straight into the rotation and all that. This is just to get him some work with the coaching staff.
Add in the fact that I don't think they worry about that, because if you look at the next 5 years, I mean, who are your starting pitchers for the next 5 years? You're in a place now where you're like, we should have Walker. Obviously, you hope Dustin May's healthy enough to make it. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to re-sign Julio. And then beyond that, what do you got? Who else is there?
My boy, Tony.
Your boy, Tony's going to be there.
And
absolutely.
Some scrap heap, dude.
Right. And that's what I mean. You're in a position now. You're in a position now where you're like, hey, we could prime this guy. We could get him ready for the coming years, because we're going to need that help. And you'd rather have that clock start now, get him working, get him where he needs to be. So that way, when we do need him in the starting rotation, he's big league ready. He's not coming in from the minor leagues like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I need to work on some stuff. He's ready. So I don't think they're worried about starting the clock. I don't necessarily know how they feel about like guys like Ryan Pepio. There's a number of guys that have come up through the years where you're like, I don't really know what they plan on doing with you. I mean, Andre Jackson is a good example of that. Yeah. Michael Grove is also a good example of that, because I don't necessarily know where they see them fitting in. I think they see all 3 of those guys almost as like, you could be in the rotation, but you're probably going to end up in the bullpen or being traded.
I think it's going to be that latter. You could see the trade more than anything. I think Pepio of those 3 names, or if those names, has the most likelihood of staying, just because he's got that nasty change, and you can't really teach the change. You just find a way to teach him a slider that devastating slider. What's it called? What do they call it? The Trinan slider, and then you're good. You can lock that one in. But that's my thing. I say bring up Bobby Miller. Let it figure it out and let it eat a little bit right now. I mean, Bobby Miller, I don't think can be worse than, Bad Day Brewstar.
That's a good point. Brewstar is, his stuff is not there.
love me some Bazooka, but I don't know, man. I don't know if this is we don't have enough bullpen to weather the up and down of Bazooka right now. But then again, if I'm saying that, how can I say, hey, yeah, let's go ahead and give this kid a cup of coffee and let him figure it out? Tough times. Glad I'm not the one who has to figure out the bullpen.